Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you're doing good and settling in because we've got a pretty chunky update to talk through for Fallout 76. And this one is absolutely packed with fixes, tweaks, and quiet changes that actually matter more than they look at first glance. This January update rolled out as version 2.18. And while it doesn't come with flashy new story beats or massive systems, it's one of those patches that really cleans house in a lot of corners players have been complaining about for a long time. First off, let's talk stability and polish because that's where a lot of the work went. Armor and clothing saw a bunch of cleanup, especially with legendary mods showing incorrect names or behaving strangely. If you've ever inspected a piece of gear and thought, that doesn't look right, you weren't imagining it. Several visual mismatches and clipping issues have been corrected, including problems where headwear would mess with facial hair or partially remove it altogether. It sounds small, but in a game where customization is such a big deal, these fixes go a long way toward making characters look the way you actually intended them to. CMP builders definitely got some love here too. There were fixes for incorrect descriptions on buildable items, problems with object collision that made placing things unnecessarily frustrating, and even adjustments to icon sizes and object costs that were just flat out wrong before. Some objects that were silent when they shouldn't have been now have proper sound effects, while others that were oddly noisy have been toned down. Allies pathing inside camps was also adjusted, so you should see fewer moments where they get stuck, pacing into walls or standing in awkward spots like mannequins that forgot their purpose in life. On the gameplay and quest side of things, Bethesda went after a bunch of issues that could outright block progression. Certain challenges that weren't completing properly should now behave as expected, and several events had dialogue or trigger problems that caused confusion or softlocks. One notable fix addressed the dirty laundry quest, where players could get stuck, unable to progress if things didn't trigger in the correct order. That's now been resolved, which is a relief for anyone who had that sitting unfinished in their log. There were also fixes to NPC voice lines not playing when they should, which made some scenes feel strangely empty before. Weapons and legendary effects also saw adjustments, and one of the more interesting changes involves the unique weapon All Rise. Its default mod setup was corrected, and one of its unique bonuses was significantly buffed, jumping from a modest health increase to a much more noticeable one. That change alone makes it feel a lot more worthwhile, especially for newer or melee-focused characters. The Elementalist legendary mod was also touched up, now properly displaying its effects and granting radiation resistance as intended, instead of leaving players guessing whether it was actually working. UI and workshop systems weren't ignored either. Several menus had indexing issues that made navigating recipes or build options more confusing than necessary, and those have been cleaned up. Some recipes that weren't properly translated in certain languages have been fixed, and the Pip-Boys saw adjustments to prevent overlapping or missing text in specific situations. These are the kinds of changes that don't get a lot of hype, but absolutely improve moment-to-moment play. There are also a ton of miscellaneous fixes that add up. Fishing animations were corrected so rods behave properly instead of snapping into strange positions. NPCs that occasionally froze into awkward poses have been smoothed out. Icons for items, badges, and flares that were missing or incorrect should now display properly. Even small environmental interactions, like certain objects not responding when activated, were addressed. One particularly nice quality of life addition is the placement of a new legendary exchange machine at Hocking Hill Station, making it easier to manage excess gear without trekking halfway across the map. Now, it's not all perfect. There is a known issue where some French voiceovers are currently missing, and Bethesda has acknowledged it. There's no timeline yet, but at least it's on their radar and being worked on, which is better than silence. Overall, this update feels like one of those necessary maintenance patches that quietly strengthens the foundation of the game. It doesn't try to reinvent anything, but it smooths out a lot of rough edges that players run into every single session. If you spend time building camps, tweaking your loadout, or just trying to get through quests without something breaking, you're probably going to feel the difference even if you can't immediately point to one specific change. These are the updates that don't scream for attention, but over time, they're what keep the experience feeling playable, reliable, and worth coming back to.